Hello, everybody. Welcome back.
Back again.
That's right. I don't know if you knew this or not, Brian, but an hour ago we interviewed another creator here on the Twitch. Um, I don't know if you know him or not, Marquise. He does Shardstone.
Awesome.
He did a Skullbox last year on
Cool.
Kickstarter on
Mhm.
ZineQuest. He's a cool dude. So
Awesome. I saw that you were streaming, but I did not make it. Uh, I had a very busy day, and I tried to take a little nap so I'd have a little bit of a personality for this evening because I get up at 5 a.m. each morning, and I'm
Whew.
an hour ahead of
Ooh.
you guys. So yeah,
Well,
Why
uh,
would you do such a thing?
r-
because I like working when everybody else is
uh,
asleep. I like
you
getting stuff done before my kids are up, and
that
that sort
is
of thing.
Man, I love hearing other people say that because it makes me sound less weird. But I'm like, my favorite time to work is on the weekend when
Yeah.
no one else is emailing me, no one else is
Right.
working, and you can just sneak in a bunch of stuff that
There's no interference. It's
that's
just
right.
like you
Yeah,
can just make stuff.
that's right. Yeah, yeah,
That's fair.
exactly.
That's fair.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to make it. Troy, I'm glad you were able to make it too. John wussed out of both of these interviews, so
I know, right?
chat,
So
be
not
sure to
cool.
give him a hard time.
I will find a way.
That's right. Brian, let's see. I'm going to save that for, you know what? Let's just go ahead and get into this recording because I was going to chat with you about something, but I think it's actually a good topic for the podcast. So, Troy, are we ready to go? Are we
We are ready to go.
awesome? All right, chat. So, we're going to go ahead and start the recording. I'll be sharing, let me go ahead and just share in the chat here um, a link to Brian's Kickstarter so you can be checking it out while we're chatting. And here we go in three, two, one. Hello and welcome to Geekscant, the home of RPG goodness and general tomfoolery. My name is Zach, and the host joining me this evening, the only host, it seems, to join me this evening, is the mayor of Fort Wayne, Troy Sandlin.
Greetings, one and all, and on behalf of the Dirty Casual, lolly ho.
There you go. Awesome. And we're also joined by special guest and creator, Brian Colin.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me. Creator. Now you make it sound like a He-Man character.
Mm.
I'm okay with that. I
Yeah.
except I'm not as beefcakey as He-Man, but I can like not move that well. So
When's that filter coming for Discord? Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
So, Brian, we had met before at a previous convention. You had like a creature curator booth
Yes.
um, before, and you had done a little project, quote unquote, called Vostgren um, over on GameFound. That was awesome.
Thank you.
But this Gen Con, you were kind enough to invite me to hop on the Morkborg or Mjörkberg panel, which was super awesome, and I really I was flattered, but B I also just like felt completely out of place and getting to hang with the cool kids. So I thank you again for letting me pop
I,
in there.
I mean, I think we're all like that, and I think most of the other people on the panel are much more entrenched in the community. I'm terrible at being a part of any community except for like what's right in front of my face. Like I'd much rather have video calls and chat with people and like but like I'm in the Merkborg Discord, but I'm not active. And like I'm active in the Infinite Black Discord because like I feel like I should check it out for work and like interact with the people that are getting to know the things that I make, but like I'm just not good at being part of the community. So I the reason I put on that panel was like one of my goals for this year was to be on panels at shows. And I
Mhm.
was like, well, the best way to do that is to create some panels.
That's right. I love that. It's funny. I said this before the show, but I'm gonna say it again now, I guess, for a different meaning. But like, we had the same thought, right? Like,
Yep.
this year when we started diving more heavily into being an exhibitor or creator at the different conventions. And one of the things that I love back when it was still a con, I would go to PAX South down in San
Hmm.
Antonio, and I went every year. And my favorite thing to do there, I like video games, but I'm not. That's not my I was gonna say that's not my scene, but that sounded weird. So, um, it's cool, but that's not what I spend my day to day with, right?
Right.
And for a long while, that con was very much an video game con and not
Hmm.
a tabletop con. But I went down with my brother-in-laws, and so when they went and they stood in lines to play video games and try things out, I went to panels because
Nice.
I could find people that were fascinating at those panels, different creators, talking about the process of that. They even had Kickstarter panels back then. A lot of them were for
Nice.
uh, 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 you know, video games and things, but still applied.
Hmm.
Writers would come down, and it's just really cool. And I fell in love with the panel scene. And then, you start to be an exhibitor and a creator yourself, and you start going to cons, and you start saying, "Ooh, I would like to do that. That sounds
Yes.
fun." Um, but also, like, I don't know if you felt this way. I kind of got the sense from our panel, I think, that a lot of people felt like a big part of the reason that I like panels is because I feel like when I was a member of the audience, I got so much out of them, right? I got to learn
Hmm.
so many things and I got opportunities to ask questions and to connect with people who were further along in the process than I was, right?
Hmm.
And so one of my big highlights from the panels is the idea that, like, you and I and whoever is sitting on that panel with us have knowledge. Even if it's not that much, it's more than the people out in the crowd.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
And
and,
sharing it.
and you're sharing it, right? And it's
Right.
this community thing. And it's like, I don't know, like, it just feels good. Like every time I get out of the panel, I'm like, I think I maybe helped someone else get excited about creating something, right? And that's
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely. And I think there's been talks about other panels next year and kind of expanding it, and even maybe doing stuff that helps talk about like actually doing production or layout and things like that to try and, because a lot of us have that sort of background knowledge, beyond like it just being like our first or second like project, like a Merkborg project. Like, I mean, I've been doing print design since 97. So
Wow.
like I'm an old man that like this, I know this stuff. I don't have to think about it. Just I just can do it. So I can share that knowledge with anybody that wants it.
That's very cool.
Yeah, that's great. And then Troy's stuck at the booth, so
Yeah.
we
Yep.
we know better than to ask him to give advice and in panels and things. We're like, listen, you
I like
just
the
you
grumpy
just
face with
keep,
that.
So
keep
the truth comes out.
that's right. Yeah. The duct tape goes on and the truth comes out. Yeah,
Yeah,
you just
yeah.
stand behind there and take the money. That's
That's right.
that's
That's
that's your
right.
job. No, that's not true at
Take the
all.
money, monkey.
That's right. No,
This is the first year
that's
I've actually had somebody, like a helper at my booth,
wow.
aside from
Yeah.
like somebody just watching it where I run to the bathroom. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard for me to let go and like do that because like I still had my creature curation booth even though Infinite Black was diagonal from me,
Mm-hmm.
because I before I got hired by them I was still had my own thing that I was doing, and so that was part of my agreement with going and working with my friend David, is like I'm still going to do shows that I already have plans to do shows to keep making that side money. So
Yeah,
Right on.
oh man, Troy, I don't know that I could imagine doing a show by myself, or I don't know if you could imagine like the small ones, like I did Kansas
Oh,
City's Con. That's fine. But I
yeah,
even had a helper then, and it was
so
super
you had
useful.
somebody there.
Yeah, like I didn't expect to, but one of my brother-in-laws was nice enough to help. But like,
awesome.
yeah, I can't even imagine like and
Mm.
what we find this is listen, all right, chat, listen, this is more businessy chat and less Kickstarter chat. But like I find that so much like there you obviously like having a booth, having a presence is an opportunity to extend that reach and to do that side hustle or that hustle just in general.
Right.
But so much of the opportunities and the benefit of a convention comes from being able to be a little bit flexible and being able
Right.
to connect with people, connect with other
Mhm.
creators or suppliers or streamers or whoever that you can.
Right.
And we just found that like very quickly, I think we discovered that it was helpful to get out from behind the booth.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
um,
I mean, the networking, the value of the networking often outweighs the financial rewards from what you make at the booth. I mean,
yeah,
that's just because you're not going to see these people in person anywhere other than a convention.
right.
I
Right.
mean, all my relationships have been built on people that I've met, starting at like Gen Con in like 2016 and beyond. It's like
Mhm.
those people that you happen to have a drink with, that you then go to dinner with the next year, that you then
Yeah.
like collaborate on a project with, because it's a slow build,
Yeah.
and it's completely like that's so worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very
Absolutely.
much.
And so
Very
that's really like that's why we're talking tonight, right?
Yeah.
So we connected there. And it was a great panel, by the way. If you are listening to this live or you're catching it in the podcast feed, you can go back into the podcast feed and listen to the audio from that panel that we got up today, the 14th. But yeah, so we chatted there, and you reminded me that you have a Kickstarter that's live right now, a really fast one, right?
Yes.
Like that was one of the things I noticed is even as we chat, I just saw like in the last few hours today, it ticked from 5 days to four. So,
Yep. I wanted very low. I wanted to put very, very little effort into it
mm,
and see what happens, because I've never participated in Zine Quest before, and it's a game that I've made with my kids, and I've been playtesting for the past 2 months with other kids and some parents in my town, and so it's I just wanted to see what it would do with, especially coming right off of Gen Con, and
yep.
I just very zero effort and see what happens. And either way, I'm printing it locally, so it can be made for not a whole lot of money, and if I need to dump extra money into it, it's not a big deal.
right
Awesome.
on.
Well, Troy, why don't you? I know you had some intrigue tied to this one. So what were you wanting to ask Brian about this project?
Well, in my day job, I guess you'd call it,
Mhm.
or evening job, I don't know. I work in a restaurant,
Mhm.
and now that it's cool to tell people that you play, role playing games and stuff. Um, the kitchen staff has been really, I ran them through a game, and they really enjoyed it. And the one chef was like, he's got these two little younger boys, and it's like, I kind of want to get him into it because it was so much fun,
Right.
but I kind of, I don't know that much about D&D, so I played it the one time. I don't know what to do, and I'm like, well, there's all kinds of stuff out there
But that's
that you
just
could.
what people know, right?
Right, it's like that you can get a hold of that's geared more towards for younger kids and stuff like that. And I said, I'll put together like a list, and then I saw this. I was like, oh, like
Yes.
this is
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. And it's great for any age, but it really works well for newer gamers, because one of the things about it is that as whoever's running the game, the GM, as people are playing their trolls and going into strange and new lands, you're asking each of the players to help describe sights, sounds, smells, loot that they bring back, so that everybody is contributing to the storytelling narrative. So it's not just one person doing it. It's a little more Mad Libs esque in a
Hmm.
way, because you're able to trying to get them to help learn the art of storytelling as they play.
And I can only imagine, I, having played for so long with adults,
Hmm.
having kids at the table contributing to that story in that way has just got to be absolutely gonzo,
Yes,
and
it
in the
totally is. But
best ways. In
yeah,
the best
absolutely.
ways.
But like the idea is that you're all trolls that live in Magic City, which is a 12 district city that floats above a sea of lava, and the districts are always moving and shifting and changing, except for the core one, which is the Forge, where you melt down loot that helps keep the city afloat. So you go across these magical bridges that are only available for a limited time, depending on the type of bridge that they roll. Like if you roll a metal bridge, you can go across that for like 6 to 8 rooms or areas before it starts to disappear, or like a rope bridge that's only available for 4. So you can play very segmented, very episodic adventures. um,
Hmm.
and but once you go over there, it can be any genre. It can you pull that from whoever's playing, be like, oh, I want to play a western, oh, I want to be on an alien spaceship. It can be anything, and it
That's
can
awesome.
really be fed by whatever the player's imagination helps come up with.
Hmm.
That's so cool. And the art that you have on this is brilliant.
That's
It's
that's my
so
friend Kerry
fun.
Drake. I love his art. He did all the art for my World of Revelo 5e setting a couple years back, and I love pushing him to the little more cartoony feel, because I I dig that, especially for a younger vibe.
Oh yeah, it is fantastic. I love it.
That's one of the things that we talked about. I think they talked about, well, you're wearing the pink shirt, right? Like they
Yes,
talked about that in the on the panel is like you like playing with those colors, right? Like Voskrim is
yes,
very like punk colors and
yes.
vibrant, and this is so much that, even more so maybe.
Yeah, I love things that get your attention, and I love bright colors. And I mean, back when I could have hair before the baldness set in, I'd have like a big pink or red mohawk,
Mm.
and like, but just can't do that anymore.
Yes, now we have to make do with shirts and hats.
Yes, exactly.
I feel your pain. I feel your pain. Awesome. So this is a game for RPG beginners over the Troll Bridge. You're traversing these bridges into different genres. What is the play style like? Like, what sorts of adventures do you imagine people having? How does this character sheet inform those types of adventures?
Sure, absolutely. So the character sheet, there's four main archetypes, and they're different types of trolls. There's a wood troll, a rope troll, a metal troll, and a stone troll. And those each have four different backgrounds. You select one of the backgrounds, and that gives you an action that you can do once per session. And then you also have there's four main stats, and those stats have different skills in there.
Hmm.
And those stats you start out with 2 points. You can put one in two different ones or two in one, and you get to fill in the abilities there. And those are abilities that you get to play. You get to use based on the number of levels you have automatically without rolling for it. Like if it
Mm.
says open lock or whatever, you can do that automatically. If you have 2 points in that skill or in that ability, you can do that twice per session. You don't have to roll for it. Otherwise, you roll a d20, and there's a difficulty rating based on what the GM decides. So there's only two dice, a d6 and a d20. The
Hmm.
d6 is more for like probability things. Like there's a 2 in 6 chance that you'll run into a mad wizard in Tower Town today. So that's what the d6 is for, and it all uses the Together We Go system that was based off of Down We Go. So it's very much using their mechanics and their open game
Okay.
license. But it's very very easy. I have there's a couple of sheets that come with it, like download sheets for players to fill out like adventure logs afterwards to try and help them see where they've been, who they've met, what they've experienced, so that they can keep a journal of it. Because I feel like that helps them players become more immersed in the narrative. And then the only other thing is you have 10 slots for equipment, and whatever your equipment is really what makes you different from somebody else in the party.
Hmm.
Like, because you can have two rope trolls that are very similar, but you might have a grappling hook gun and a skateboard and something like this, and the other person could have like um, an ink, like rare papers and weird quill and like things like, because you can pull things from any genre or any
Hmm.
setting, you can be as creative as you want to with it. Which sometimes it's hard, especially for experienced players, to come up with things. Like it's like, well, I want my bedroll, I want my this, I want my that,
Yeah.
but like it's really those things that help you define who you are as you play.
And I think that my experience, so I have two young kids, a 7 and a 9 year old, right? So in
Hmm.
my experience, kids don't have a lot of those preconceived notions about what you're supposed to have with you, right? So when you
Right.
sit down to play with them and you say, what do you bring along, or what are you looking for? What are you trying to buy in this shop? The the whatever they say, you're not gonna expect it, right?
Right.
9 times out of 10, right?
Exactly.
uh, my daughter talked about she made this so she likes that I make games. She's the 7 year
Mhm.
old, so she likes that I make games. And so about once a month she decides she's going to make a game, and she'll make a
Perfect.
game and draw the map and have the tokens and whatnot. Well, this last time she made an asymmetrical game, which I was super excited about. But one of the things that you could be was a spider with laser guns, and I was like,
Fantastic. I
that's
love
not
that.
anything an adult would ever sit down and be like, this spider is equipped with a laser gun, right? But
Yeah.
that's this to me already, like, just with the poppy colors and the physicality and the variety of the trolls, and the fact that we're genre hopping. You see a big great axe and you see a skateboard just on the cover, right? Like,
Mhm.
to me, my kids would see this and they would immediately understand that this is a game where, you know, they can put anything they want or anything they can find on that
Yes.
equipment. So yeah, cool.
Yes.
So is the spider with lasers going to make it into a game of yours? Because it should.
Yeah,
You
it
need to
should,
find a way
right?
to work it in.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I mean, she might have a copyright at this point, so we'll have to we'll have to see.
Perfect.
Yeah. No, she's crazy that way. I love it. Yeah, so you got this funky game. What made you choose? So I find this very fascinating, especially when it's for a project like this. What made you pick the Together We Go system? What drew you to that?
So I've been friends with Tony since I met him online, and he started talking to me about Vast Grim stuff, and so I saw that like he was helping to publish the Down We Go system, and there was the Together We Go game jam. So I did the initial incarnation of this for that.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and then we started play testing it and started expanding it a little more than what was there.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was like, okay, I've had kids playing it. I want to see the kids that are playing it in print in the playtesting credits. I want my kids to get credit for design because my daughter, who's 8, she's done some, but my son, who's 12, really contributed a lot more this time around because I've
Mm-hmm.
had them helping with other things that I've worked on, trying to, you know, trying to get them involved. And
Mm-hmm.
as they get more and more involved, I want to make sure like they see like this is what happens when you work on a game. You
Mm.
see your name in print. Like my son's gotten to play test a couple of the Brotherwise board games, and when you get those in and open it up and you see the playtester credits, it's like that's me. That's me. I'm like in this book. Like
Yeah.
having that sensation for other people's kids be able to see that and maybe get them excited about making games too.
Mm-hmm.
That's
That's
really cool.
that's why I had to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, Troy, so Brian just used a term. I had heard the term before, but I did not know what it was until the panel. This is one of the many reasons that I felt like I was the new kid on the block at the panel. But they're talking about these game jams, right? Have you the
Yeah.
I felt like such an old person. Have you ever heard of these game jams, Troy?
These, that's something the new kids are doing
Yeah. Have you
on
heard
the
of
street
those?
corners with their cardboard and spinning around their heads.
Yeah.
Well, I
No,
mean, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I'm assuming it's kind of like a mass like brainstorming session or where you're like all together just throwing ideas around and making up different types of games, seeing how you can push the system in different ways and seeing what happens. Or I'm completely wrong.
As far as I know, I think it developed from Itch, and Itch was mainly like a developer platform at first. Like, and they'd have video game jams where there'd be a theme, and you'd have a certain window of time to be able to make something in that theme. And so then the role playing community adopted that and started doing it. So like, if there's a game that has an open game license, you'd have a game jam, and you'd have a theme of like Halloween, and everybody would have 12 days or 24 days or 24 hours to make something posted on Itch, either as a paid PDF or a free thing, and that all kind of fit under that search umbrella, like as far as the algorithm works with Itch, and it would all fit under that game jam theme. And
Hmm.
I've only participated in a couple, and we hosted a Vast Grim one right after the PDFs went out of that book.
Mm.
But it's something that it's exciting to see people get excited about creating, and it seems to build a sense of community. But as far as I know, it's really only localized on Itch. Um, was it Kickstarter that tried doing one recently?
Kickstarter
No,
tried, maybe. I feel
no,
like
it was Drive Through
drive
RPGs.
through. Yes, you're right. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I've seen one. I also saw one on. I've seen one on a couple Discord channels. The
Hmm.
Mothership Discord also did like a jam. I think for these little like they had like these little like retro square graphics, and I not knowing what a jam was, I stumbled into it and was like,
Sure,
everybody's making these little square graphics and posting, and like they're I guess they're like little code graphics, like little puzzles or something. That anyhow, it was cool. Um,
cool.
but yeah, I'm I got home from Gen Con, and one of the things that I told the crew was like I think there's a community on Itch that we're missing out on because
Yep.
we like one of the big things that we like over here, obviously with Geekscant and with World of Game Design, is we like connecting with creators, right? And we like the
Hmm.
collaborative experience. I'm like, I think that there's some of that happening in a cool way over there that we just haven't dipped our toe into yet, but I think it'd be really enjoyable. So it's nice to hear from folks like yourself that not just participated, but then something has come out of it, right? Like now you
Yep.
have this, which is a lot more than I would assume the typical jam would kind of spit out as far as the depth and expansiveness of the project.
Yeah. A lot of jams have like a one-page thing or a two-page thing, especially if they're going to try and collect it together into a single PDF.
Hmm. Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, let's get back real quick to the Kickstarter. So why don't you give our crew a rundown of what the different levels in your on your campaign look like?
Sure, absolutely. So I wanted to try and keep it pretty simple
Hmm.
because, like I said, I was only doing it for like a 10-day project, and I didn't want to go for a long time. There's the digital pledge that gets you a PDF of the book. It'll also get you PDFs of all the single page like tear sheets, like character sheets, all the other like adventure quest sheets and things like that. Um, there's the print in the PDF, which is it's slated to be a 24-page zine, A5 style book. I have the next one of the stretch goals that we may or may not make add another 4 pages to it. I'm probably going to add the 4 pages anyway because I want the content in there. Um, so and that's $15. Then we have the Troop Leader, which is uh, printed rule book, and it also has character sheet tear pad, quest record tear pad, all the unlocked physical stretch goals, and it has PDFs of everything. And I wanted to make tear pads because I really like the character sheets being bright and colorful. And
Mm,
you can download the grayscale PDF and print it out, but it's just not the same as seeing that bright punch of color. And especially for new players having that, like I had my first color character sheets at Vast Grim games at Gen Con this year. It's so much different.
yeah.
Like seeing that's like, okay, now it's in your face.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, I
Um,
love that.
I have the gaming group, which has 4 rule books, and then it also has the tear pads as well. That way, if you want to get one for everybody at the table, or if you have a bigger group, you can add on additional books. And then finally, I have a retailer bundle because I love working with retailers. I love getting my stuff in their stores and getting out to other gamers who might not find me otherwise. So
Hmm.
trying to include that is always important. And usually, this is a like I said, since it's such a like fly under the radar campaign. There's not a ton of retailers on it, but usually with my other projects, I tend to get quite a few of the retailers on board.
For something like this project, um, what about an educator tier?
It's, it's a good idea. I should do it just the like almost the exact same as the retailer, or maybe
Yeah,
yeah,
or educator, or some kind of childcare,
yep,
um,
Club.
even
yep.
club, yeah, game clubs, or even like therapists and stuff like that. I think
Hmm.
that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm writing it all down.
One thing that I like, so I'm definitely the person who like says how many pages can I fit into that saddle stitch scene before it becomes unwieldy, and how
Hmm.
small a font do I need to can I get away with, right? Like how much can I cram into the format? But I'm finding more and more. You said 24 pages, and I wanna draw attention to that for a moment. To me, like there's something about that like 24 to 30 page window that when I get a zine of that size, it's communicating that, to me at least, that the designer has something that they want to do and then they want to get out, right?
Hmm.
Not in a bad way, but just like, hey, I've got this. I want to give you this, and I want you to see what you think of it, right?
Right.
And it's not overworked and it's not expansive. It's really just there to inspire and to communicate a concept. And in your case, I think educate or bring in a new collection of gamers. But I'm actually like weirdly, as soon as you said that, I'm like, I'm actually more excited about it now, knowing that it's 24 pages than if you
Uh-huh.
would have said it was 48 or something like that a lot of zines are becoming.
Well, yeah, I mean, with this, you don't need it to be that dense. You want people playing as quickly as possible.
Right.
And like,
Exactly.
even with one thing I didn't mention, I said that there's 12 districts. 4 of them are unnamed. 4 of those are districts that the players come up with as they
Mm,
play. So,
mm-hmm,
and the other districts, as I said, that they shift and change. The adjectives that describe them change every time you visit them.
mm-hmm,
So that way, like, it can it can stay fresh for a long period of time. I do have ideas for an advanced version where it has higher levels and stuff, but I just want people playing and see what people think before going into like the 48-page book or something bigger like you had mentioned.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's nice that you had a starting point with the system. A lot of times that allows you to kind of like break it down and know
Hmm.
how much of it you want to communicate. That's really great. Awesome. Well, I know I am super excited for Over the Troll Bridge. I've definitely backed it, Troy. I can't imagine that you won't pick it up before the end of the night as well. But this is we talked about this. Let's see, talked about this back with Andy Hand in his last zine, his first zine, right, which was also
Hmm.
pitched towards kids. Um, and there's just something cool about that concept. I think that if you don't have kids and you're listening, I think one of the things that I appreciate about this sort of an idea is that really, what are we saying when we say this is for kids or it's new, whatever, right? It's
Right.
really, or new gamers or whatever, right? It's about, we're just trying to distill it down to its principal form, right?
Hmm.
Right.
And we're trying to cut out anything that is fluff for the sake of fluff and just communicate uh, a clean presentation. And I think that's a very noble goal, even if you're not a person with kids or that introduces new people. Seeing games that they're stripped down to their bare bones, mechanic wise, and just cleaned up is sometimes very eye opening about what makes a game and what you like about them.
And it's interesting to see adults that have been gaming for a long time play a game that doesn't have things so defined because it's freeing in many ways.
Hmm.
Like I
Yep.
ran this for the Nerdarchy crew on one of their streams, and they've all played games for years and years,
Oh yeah.
and they got to explore in ways that you might not be able to with games that are more rigid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah. And like like you said, it's great for those people that maybe you think would be interested in RPGs, but they only know what they've heard, out and about. It's like, oh, they're so you have to memorize these, 400-page rule books and all this stuff, and I don't understand anything. I don't. How do you have a game without a board, and how do you don't win, and all of that
Yep.
stuff. Something like this is great. It's like, do you want to learn? Here, grab this die, grab that die. Here's a thing.
Yep.
Go.
Build a character in 5 minutes and you're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And that's great. Or
That's what they want anyways, right? Like that's the
yeah.
reality is we've talked about this on the show before, but like the average person coming into D&D does not have a conception of it as grid, minis, 400-page rulebook. They have an
Yep.
idea of it as a storytelling game, as a game where maybe a dice is involved, and there is this thing called a character sheet, but really they have come into it, most of them, through the idea of streaming or actual play games or TV shows and things, right?
Hmm.
And that's a great thing. And what it means is that I've talked to people who say, "Oh, I play D&D." I'll chat them up at something, and
Uh-huh.
they're like, "Oh, I play D&D." I'm like, "Oh, what do you play?" And they'll go grab the book, and it's Kids on Bikes, right?
Uh-huh.
Or it's whatever,
Yep.
right? Like that's
Yep.
D&D to them. They call it D&D, but it's not that, right? It's just the simpler system that they found on Amazon for $20 or whatever, right? Or that
Hmm.
their friend bought them, or that was at the library, and they're like, "Oh, this is what I was looking for, expecting from D&D, so it must be D&D."
Yes.
Um, and it's kind of cool to see us like taking the D&D word and turning it into, Kleenex
Right. Yep.
across, or yeah, that sort of
Yeah.
thing. Cool.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right. Well, Brian, where can folks? So, first and foremost, let me reiterate: Over the Troll Bridge RPG Explore New Worlds is live on Kickstarter right now. It has met its funding goal. It has 4 days left to go, so this is going to wrap up on Thursday, I believe. Thursday or
It should
Friday?
be Friday. I think the
Friday.
timing's weird on
Timing's
the
weird.
yeah.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, so it's going to wrap up on Friday. But Brian, other than the Kickstarter link, which we'll be sure to publish, where else can people go to find you?
The best place to go is Linktree/Brian Colin, BrianColin, and that's all the things are there. It's just so much easier.
Oh yes.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for hopping on
Thanks
the
for having
show.
me.
thanks for thanks for hooking us up and connecting with us on at
Heck
Gen
yeah.
Con, and super excited. What's your next show, Brian? Where, if people want to meet you in person, where could they maybe go see you?
I'm trying to get into PAX Unplugged, but I'm
Hmm.
waiting to hear back. So that's the next goal I think for that one, because I like last year was such a weird year, and this year I didn't plan ahead well enough. Like I did Gen Con last year and Gen Con this year, but it's time to get back to doing shows and time
Yeah.
to get Infinite Black back to doing more shows. So hopefully next year will be even like there will be a handful.
Yeah, and PAX
Right on.
Unplugged was a little bit wonky this year because they they sat on it for a while before they opened it up, and they're just getting back into the swing of things. So,
Right, right.
um, but cool. Okay, so maybe PAX Unplugged, and then after that, you think maybe next year you might slip into like a game, let's see, a Gary Con or an Origins or any of those on your
So I went
horizon?
to Gary Con this past year just for fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Actually, I think I played Scrap Rats,
Yeah,
um,
probably saw
Right
that.
and
on.
then let's see, but I'll usually do Origins. Probably like for industry folks, probably do Gamma again this year because it's been 2 years since doing Gamma. So Origins, uh, Gen Con, hopefully uh, PAX Unplugged, and then maybe Gamehole. I don't know. I want to try and focus everything just on RPG conventions,
Mm-hmm.
because that's where the audience is.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, good luck to you, Mr.
thank
Brian.
you.
And I guess thanks a lot, chat, for listening in. Thanks to Troy for hanging out with me one more time. And until next week, we'll see you next time.
Play great games over the troll bridge.